I'm honored to be here and introduce to you my friend Tom Deans. You will know much about the illustrious Tommy D, just from his bio. He has been obviously formative years spent here, undergraduate education at Mount A. Thankfully he came to Hamilton, my hometown, to do a master's degree and meet the love of his life, Lori, that was romantic overachieving at its highest. Then off to the University of Warwick in the UK, and then an illustrious career as an inventor, an entrepreneur, the leader of a family business, and then a best-selling author and internationally acclaimed speaker. My relationship with Tommy is a little bit more mundane. We met in a corporate boardroom in Toronto about 30 years ago, compared notes and realized we lived on the same block in Hamilton where he had settled after finishing his education, and found that we had a shared love of a bunch of things, not the least of which was marathon running. And I know that those of you gathered here are going to look at both of us and think those have got to be the two fattest, slowest guys ever to run a marathon. But the truth is we've run several together, spent many hours on the golf course competing for a 1913 Philadelphia Athletics baseball trophy that we play once a year for, and some time on the squash court. But I want to just briefly tell you about marathon running, because I first threw down the gauntlet to Tommy. I said, Tommy, I bet you couldn't run a marathon. And on 3 months training, we did both the New York City Marathon and then subsequently the Marine Corps Marathon in Washington, D.C. Lori was there with us on the Marine Corps race, which was on my 50th birthday about 7 years ago. Beautiful day in Washington, D.C. The Marines run the race with rifles, packs, and boots for 26 miles and chant the whole way. They're a formidable fighting force. Tommy and I were plodding along. I got a little bit lightheaded, and at mile 22 I pulled over to the aid station, and a cute young female Marine handed me a popsicle stick with something on the end of it that looked like lemon ice, and I took it and swallowed it with a single gulp, and her eyes got a little big, and she said, "Sir, that was Vaseline for the chafing." Long and the short of it was, we both finished the race. The end of the Marine Corps Marathon is straight uphill, 200 meters to the Iwo Jima Monument, where a uniformed Marine gets down, takes the chip off your shoe, gets up and salutes you. The moral of that story with the popsicle stick, by the way, is you shouldn't swallow everything that people hand you, including those who are here introducing inductees into your gallery of distinction, because we make stuff up, former elected officials. But marathon running really is in many ways an analogy for life. Non-runners, those who don't share a compulsive sickness to run 26 miles, look at it as a solitary pursuit. But in fact, you are so dependent on others. First and foremost, your family, who sacrifice their time and allow you the indulgence of spending time getting ready. Your training partners, the medics, the folks in the support tent, and most importantly, the volunteers who just stand along the course and cheer you on to success. And what I learned early and often with my friend Tom is that more than anything else, and I learned this particularly as a neighbor of his for a long time, living straight across the street on Hillcrest Avenue in Hamilton, that he appreciated and valued all around him, and he set out throughout the course of his life and his career to make those around him better. I suspect that the fact that he sold a lot of books is a great thing. The fact that he is in acclaim as an international speaker matters. But I think the thing that has distinguished Tom through his life and his career and the relationships to family is that he's always remembered his obligation to one another and to leaving places like this a little bit better than he found them. I'm honored today to introduce to you Dr. Thomas Deans, a father, a husband, a friend, a colleague, and somebody that has made a difference in this world. Now, the only thing he hasn't yet done, because he helped me get elected on a number of occasions, is he now has rather passionate views about changes to the tax code relative to small business in Canada. And I think the only unfulfilled aspiration in his career repertoire is that he may yet be a future prime minister of this country. We just need to get him over the hump and nominate him in the appropriate place. It's my honor and pleasure as a longtime friend of the family and of my friend Tom to introduce to you your latest inductee to your Gallery of Distinction with this esteemed company, Tommy Deans.
Bonjour, monsieur. C'est longtemps que je t'ai vu. I thought I'd launch my political career in French. Terry, thank you very much for those kind words. It almost felt like a eulogy, actually. It was kind of weird. It was a little weird. This is a great day. It's a fun day. I share Jeff's comments that this is very unlikely. 35 years ago, I walked out those front doors, and today was the first day back through them. And I'll tell you, if anyone ever told us, Jeff, right, that we would be up here being inducted into a case of distinction, that was not part of the plan. I have to share two stories to put that into some context. There are two major things, really in front of me to get to university. One, I have to write a final grade 13 functions and relations final exam, right? If I don't get that grade, I am not getting into Mount Allison University. And I know that if I get through that exam, it's going to be great because I'm going to have all my maths and sciences behind me. And I wish Carol Bagg was here because she was so great. I was not really great with numbers. I was dysnumeric, I swear. I worked so hard. I have never worked so hard and received so little back. I worked so hard on that final exam. I went in for extra help with Carol, and she said, this is the kind of question that you're going to have. And I'll give you an example. It was something like, I remember it clearly. A train is leaving Toronto, and it is going 400 kilometers an hour. How long will it take to get to Montreal? And I'm working on this, and she's showing me how to derive the formula, and I'm studying, I'm committed, I'm going to nail this exam. I go into that room, right in the gym, and there it is. I flip over the exam, and there's the question, right? Except it goes like this. There's a bus leaving from Calgary. And I'm like, where's the train? Where is the train? I'm pretty sure I blew that exam. I came back to the school maybe a week after I wrote that exam, and I met with Carol Bagg, and I said, look, I don't know what my final mark is, but I want to make a solemn oath to you that I will never apply my math skills to build a bridge or imperil any kind of public safety ever. And she found it in her heart and maybe some wisdom that resided in her to give me, are you ready for this? 50. Now you know and I know that 50 is really not 50. That is just charity. That is just sad charity, and I took it and I ran to Mount Allison University, and I got in. I never had to take another math and science. In fact, that's when life really got great. But I also had one other major event standing in between me and Mount Allison University where I felt that if I had those things behind me, I could really thrive, and that was music. In grade 13, I actually won Musician of the Year, which is, again, also bizarre because to this day I can't read music, which was, but I played this song, Harlem Nocturne, from memory. But I had to for my final mark, grade 13 music, I had to learn a new instrument. Of course, I dithered all year. I did absolutely nothing, and I told Mr. Mulcahy that I would play for him the piano. I played the saxophone. That was under control. I could fake that fairly well. But I had to demonstrate that I'd learned a new instrument, and that was called the piano. And so on exam day, actually the night before, I sat down at my parents' piano, and I made up a song. I just made up a song. And then I came in very quickly, early the next morning, and I said to Chris Rayner, Chris, I'm going to play some stuff. Could you write the music that I'm playing? And so he did. And then for my final exam, I just put this gibberish in front of me, and I played my song. And I played it. I leaned into it. I closed my eyes. I worked the room. It was beautiful. And not only did I pass, but I think I got an 85. I mean, to this day, I play that song. It's the only song I play on my piano. And if you ever come to my home and you have 2 syllables, if your name is Lori or Mary or Sandy, I can play that song and make it yours. So with math and music behind me, I was I was well on my way to Mount Allison University, where really, quite frankly, I don't want to make, I'm not going to tell you my life story, but I'll give you a couple of highlights. It was fun, and I mean, I really dug into, the subjects that I love that Mr. Senior introduced us to, which is, the history and public policy, and that's what really lit me up. That 3 years later, I was off to McMaster. 12 months later, I had a master's degree. I was off to the University of Warwick, finished a PhD in 2.5 years. I mean, I was really in my sweet spot. I was rolling. I love this stuff. I graduated with a PhD. My first job, we're living in parallel universe, by the way, because my first job is with the plastic industry. It doesn't last very long, but I go to Scotiabank. And I arrive at the main branch at 44 King with a letter, my letter of employment offer, and they say, well, congratulations, Dr. Deans, welcome to Scotiabank. You'll be starting on the top floor. And I'm thinking, I'm 26. And I'm thinking, this is unbelievable. I am starting at the top. And then I realized at 44 King, the fire ladders only reach to the 4th floor. In fact, that's where all the executives are. Yeah, that's not, the top is the bottom. It's a rather inverted world. So I remember taking a phone call once. The president was looking for my vice president. And I said, no, not a problem, Mr. Bell. I'll just put you on hold. And I ditched him. Like I just lost him. He called back, I ditched him again. I had a very short career in banking, very short. Then I had a phone call, and it was a phone call from my father, and we met for lunch, and we started a great conversation that led to me joining our family business in 1999 at the tender age of 37, which is quite late in the world of family businesses. But what I didn't know at that time is that would really start an extraordinary chapter. We worked great together. We built this great business. We had all sorts of challenges with the Canadian dollar, but we pivoted, and we built a great business, a growing business, and the phone rang. And our competitor wanted to buy us. And we engaged in that conversation, and we worked through that. We spent 5 years really kind of cleaning up the business, and we actually had an amazing transaction. We sold our family business on February 8th, 2007. Now, for some of you, you may know that would be really extraordinary timing. The Canadian economy went into a real meltdown. The capital markets melted down. Our industry melted down. We got out while the getting was good. And I worked for the new owners for 6 months. I often like to say that I served a 6-month sentence for a crime I didn't commit. It was a really difficult 6 months working for a German company, and you're no longer in control. But I got through that, and then that came to an end, and I went home and I golfed, pretty much every day for 2 weeks, and I didn't move my handicap at all. And I then one morning sat down and I started to peck away on my laptop. And my wife Lori popped her head in around 10:30. This is early 10:30. She says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I think I'm writing a book. I think I'm writing a book." And I kept typing that day. I typed right till 3 in the morning. I typed 10,000 words of what then became Every Family's Business. The book is only 43,000 words. It was so in me, this idea that I wanted to share. And I had no business plan, no idea, no real idea where that book was going to take me. I wasn't actually writing it for anyone. I wasn't writing it for readers. I was writing it for myself. So it was a very authentic and a very real book, and it carried with it a very new and I think profound message, which is that every business ought to be built to be sold, which is very different in the family business world where we build businesses to pass on to the next generation, which really hasn't been our family experience. So I just wrote that book. I remember giving a free speech at a local Rotary Club, and it was in Alliston. And afterwards, a lawyer came up to me and he said, "Wow, that's a very different message. What do you charge?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. Why don't you buy a book for everyone who attends your meeting?" And he had 100 people, and I sold 100 books. And I tripped over this beautiful business model. And that was just over 1,000 paid speeches ago, 20 countries. In the last week, I spoke in Palm Springs, Calgary, Toronto, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and Santa Fe, New Mexico. I just took the red eye to get back here. I wasn't going to miss this. It has just been the most amazing adventure to share that message with literally hundreds of thousands of business owners that are struggling to find how they're going to transition out of their businesses. That journey, that really crazy journey, could not have been predicted sitting in this school at 19. If there's any message that I would share today with anyone, It's that you don't know what you don't know. I looked at the last inductee from our year, which is Ulrika Zugelder, voted most likely to go to the moon. Did she invent Uber? Did she invent it? She is the smartest person in the world. And I would always look at Ulrika Zugelder and think, I mean, we all knew she would go on to do great things. Myself, Jeff, I mean, we're just kind of journeymen. We were just doing our thing. And I think we always admire people that maybe have a skill that we don't. And I think a lot of our skills come to us late in life. They're discovered much later in life. And my message would be, if what you have is buried deep inside you, if it's a crisis or some major challenge that reveals your gift, then go with it and trust it and take that risk that Krista mentioned. Take those risks, because that is really where the really awesome journey resides. So with that, let me first of all thank my family. The greatest part of my career is now, and I think the best is yet to come. I could not have written the 2 books without the experience of working in a family business. It was the most incredible experience of my life. It has given me purpose, an incredible opportunity to make a difference in people's lives and earn a great living and travel to some great places. I'm off to Beirut and Lebanon and Nigeria in 2 weeks to give these speeches. It is global, it's fun, and it started with family. So thank you, family, my son and daughter, and my mother and father here, my good friend Wally, Terry, thank you for making the drive from Hamilton. Appreciate it. Jeff, what a great day. What a great fun day. And my fellow inductee in the committee, thank you all for this, and looking forward to some more one-on-one conversations with some old friends. Thank you.